Hello everybody. So I wanted to recap a little bit of what I highlighted from a legal seminar I was at related to professional responsibility and ethics. And it was really good. I think that the seminar overall outlaid a lot of fun examples of how attorneys can really screw up when it comes to communication with each other, saying horrible, mean things, acting super emotionally. It's just a reminder that lawyers are people too, and very often they can be narcissistic psychopaths. But there's actually something that's very disturbing that I already knew, but it was a good reminder to me. It's a disturbing trend, and the trend is why I think there's so much wrong within the court system. The reason that there's so much wrong, in other words, many judges who are not either following the law or just making stuff up or are really just destroying and being able to get away with destroying civil liberties in America is because the ethics rules generally in most states require that attorneys don't really name out any judges or any specific attorneys with criticisms. And there are two reasons, I think, why this happens in practice. In other words, why attorneys don't do this to begin with generally. First, obviously, you lay out a criticism against a judge or another attorney, well, you're going to have to deal with them again. Potentially. And if you have to deal with them again, then you might have just prejudiced your case. Because if you say something bad about a judge, even if it's a valid critique, even if you're like, yeah, this judge is moody every day and they're rude to everybody, and whenever they pull down, a ruling, it depends on what somebody's wearing. Like it appears that way. You can't make those critiques without possibly getting blackballed or getting sanctioned. And when you put those things on the table and start to realize that the ethics rules actually blend into halting the First Amendment or just freedom to speak accurately or even inaccurately, but generally here we're talking about accurately about what judges or other attorneys are doing. Nobody else is going to actually know what is going on. And the reason is that lawyers are in the best position to give critiques. First, because they're there quite often. I mean, and comparatively, the best other people would be bailiffs, court reporters, people like that, staff personnel. But the difference between the attorney and them is that an attorney actually will, or generally will understand the legal issues at hand in addition to what the judge's demeanor is or how they're acting. So an attorney can make a critique that, a judge could be totally polite, totally professional, but they make really bad rulings on the law, and there might be a subjective reason as to this due to human nature. And those things can never get brought out. It's really crazy. And when you put that together on the whole picture, and realize that lawyers are technically self-regulating in terms of who does their sanctions and who reviews what they do. The entire legal field is under a mask. In as much as you can compare it to prosecutorial discretion, there is this giant mask that exists because there is an absolute terror of making any open critiques about judges and other lawyers, but especially judges, because of the ethics code and because of the fear of being blackballed if you have to face the judges again. So it's really hard. It's really hard to bring any real reform or change to the legal system with the people who would be the best to make the critiques, the people who are there actively, and frequently, and the people who actually are immersed in the law to know, okay, whether or not this judge, is following or not following the laws, or making poor decisions, or how they're treating people based on what the law is. And then the other little tidbits I thought was interesting was that they focused a bit on presenting yourself professionally, but the irony here is their professional ideas about how you should look promotes this whole superficial element, right? Dress really nice, look a certain way. It's like the exact opposite of what many, you could say, progressive or feminist or anyone who's just trying to break away from the whole, oh, you should be judged how you look thing. Like, the entire legal field lives off of this, how you should look and how you should dress, and you should be professional all the time. Like, they live off this idea that you have to maintain appearances. It's all superficiality. It really is a pageantry that would be likened to something you imagine of kings and nobles back in the 1450s, 1600s. And when you consider it like that, combined with the superficiality plus the gag on the First Amendment of lawyers due to ethics codes and the fear of being blackballed, the legal system does start to look a lot more like a pay-to-play system, something that can't really get access by those who are more poor because they can't afford to look good, they can't afford the professionalism, they can't afford to deal with all of these very expensive keeping up with the Joneses things. And then the last part, I think, that most people will love to hear here is that one of the speakers was talking about how at one conference he's at, someone asked, "Oh, so do you work a 40-hour week?" And he said he laughed. And to me, that was just one of those reminders of how much people don't get that these lawyers who are coming out first year are literally living their lives to practice law. Now, of course, if you love that, you wake up and you're ready to write and research, and that's your thing, and you can do that for 70 to 100 hours a week, no problem. And then, of course, I always tell people, don't forget to factor in your travel time, because if you're working in a big city and you're spending 30 minutes to an hour every day traveling, well, now what's that going to be over the course of a month? You're going to spend 20 hours to 40 hours a month just driving or being on a metro. You can't, you have to account for all these economics, but it was like a really good reminder that these people don't have lives outside, and they definitely don't have time to lift or anything like that. Someone like me, I love working out, and I'm not like super huge bodybuilder, but I enjoy the ability to like work out and exercise and feel healthy and have other relationships in my life. But the idea that there's this work-life balance for a lot of these people coming in first year, no. Maybe if you're working in a government-related job where it is 40 hours, maybe if you're working in a small practice, maybe if you're working part-time kind of thing, but on the average, most of these people, especially if you factor in the travel time for a lot of these first firm jobs where you're supposed to be working, over 40 hours a week, 50, 60 plus the travel time. I mean, so unless you love it, you're gonna hate yourself. And actually that's how I factor my work right now. I base a lot of my work decisions on how close I am. I literally, to do what I mainly do, takes me about 5 minutes every morning. 6 minutes in traffic to get to where I need to go every morning. And as you can imagine, I have a lot more free time to do stuff like publish comics and do cosplay stuff and go travel. And I mean, I literally have more expendable income making less than many of my peers do starting out in law school, because I don't have all those expenses and I have so much more free time. I can answer questions here too. That's just how much free time I have, right? So taking all this into consideration, these main points that I kind of drew as like a whoa, like people need to recognize this. Legal profession is going to be totally screwed still because of all the the effective gag of ethics codes on lawyers to be able to make valid critiques on emotional things. In other words, the demeanors of judges, because they want to have this shroud of secrecy. It's the magic justice box, but no, they're human too. They screw up stuff, and they may want to see the game, so they cut things early and make a decision that's not right. I personally have seen that. Like literally, I've actually been before a judge where all the attorneys are like, "Wow, Jamie, that was an amazing argument," stuff like that. Like, you're totally right, and you can tell the judge just wanted to go see the freaking football game. You know what I mean? That happens. But you know what? No one's going to be able to write about that without getting A, blackballed, or B, maybe they'll get ethics sanctions. Second part was that, the superficiality. Keeping up with the Joneses is still there. They still want you to look the part and play the part, and if you're poor, well, screw you. And then the last part is, again, the work week. Workaholics, the economy's still going down with that kind of stuff, lawyer jobs still, and the glut of lawyers across the country in many states. There's some that have gotten a little bit better. I think Iowa's one of them, but the competition is just unreal. It's a race to the bottom, and the bigger firms just know they can get their workers or doc review and stuff like that over in India, no problem. And it's just the salaries, the benefits, all the things that used to be like, oh, I'll be a lawyer because this, at least I'll have this much money, and at least I'll have, a big house. It's all gone. So, hope that's helpful, and I'll talk to you later.